Anyways, let's move on to the next area. So after area 1, which is the lake, we move over to area number 2, which is called Solitary Island. So let's go ahead and access it. Okay, we need to go back to the map. Then we need to go over to the new area, which is number 2, Solitary Island. Okay, so let's access the first level in this area. The level is called Poem. Okay, so we've got a little poem here. Rose is red, violet is blue, flag is win, Baba is you. So we're actually introduced to some new objects in this area, in this level. So we've got our violets over here, and we've got our roses over here. And we're also introduced to 2 new modifiers. So the modifiers are red and blue. I don't think these really make too much of a difference from a gameplay perspective, but they do recolor whatever is in here. Okay, so here's the thing. We have to be very careful with this area because we've got all these rules that are all stuck together here. The only rule that we can't break is wall is stop. So obviously we can't move this column here from the top because when we move this, then U is no longer in play. So if U is no longer in play, then we lose. So we're gonna have to redo that. So what else can we do? If we move this column over here, then we become the flag. We form this rule, flag is U. But the problem is we can't do anything from here because the flag is stuck in this room. So we need to undo all this and reconsider. What we can do is we can move the is down. So this column of is text, we can move it down. So we're going to move it down 1, 2, and then we can move this violet text over to the left. Okay, so from here, what we can do is we can, let's see, we can move the rose text out. So the rose text over here, that corresponds with these roses over here scattered around the level, and we're going to become the rose. So we can become the rose by, let's see, moving the rose into this position, and then we're going to move this column down. When we move this column down, now Baba is win and rose is you. We don't control Baba anymore, but we do control all of the roses in the level. So whenever you get an opportunity to control a lot of different objects, you should take it. So let's go ahead and use the roses to touch Baba, because Baba is the win condition now. Okay, let's do a little review and then we can move on to the next level. So in this level, we've got some key points. So this is the poem level from the Solitary Island area. So the key points are, this level introduces 2 new verbs. So the verbs are red and blue, which are cosmetic. So they just make whatever object red and blue. And it also introduces 2 new objects, which are the rose and the violet objects. Okay, so the method of solve is move the is lines of text 2 tiles down. So we move them down, and then we have access to the violet text, which we need to move to the left. Move the rose text out, and then position it below the Baba text. And then move the object row up, forming the rules Baba is win, and rose is you. From there, you touch Baba, and then you win. The next level is going to be this one over here. It's called Float. So this introduces a new concept in the game. Okay, so this looks very, very similar to the first level of the game, except there's one extra rule. The extra rule is this one over here. Baba is float. So when objects are floating, that means that that they can't interact with certain objects. So, but this is a little bit misleading. It says Baba is float. When Baba is float, or your character is float, you can actually interact with objects, such as the text. You can interact with text. You can interact with objects that have the push rule applied to them, so we can push the rocks. And the problem is that we can't interact with objects that that don't have the push rule applied to them. So we can't actually touch the flag and win. So we've got a little conundrum. We need to form a rule that is going to let us win. So what are we going to do? We're going to set up the rule that Baba is win, because if we are win and we are us, then we win. So whenever we can form the rule something is you and something is win, then you will win automatically. Okay, so the float rule is actually very important for the rest of the levels in this area. So we should probably pay attention to them. We're going to be picking up a few different pointers about the float rule while we're moving through this area. But let's take a look at what's happening in this level. So this is level 1 float. So key points. So this level introduces the float verb, which text and objects that are not floating cannot interact with. If you are float, you are still stopped by objects with the stop rule applied, even if that object is not float. So stop overrides float. If you are float, you can still push objects with the push rule applied, even if that object is not float. So push and stop are both have higher priority than float, even if float doesn't let you interact with certain objects. So if you are float, you can still push text that is not float. So floating text, or if you are floating, can still be moved around. So this is something we have to keep in mind while we're playing the game. So to finish the level, all we need to do is form the rule Baba is win. Because Baba is float, if we're also win, then we win. Let's move on to the next level. So this is level number 2, Warm River. Okay, so this is a pretty small level. What's going on? We've got a number of different rules that we can't break. We need to understand these rules in order to finish the level. So water is hot. So remember, hot objects will melt objects. So water is hot and Baba is melt, which means that if Baba enters the water, then Baba will melt and will be destroyed. So let me demonstrate. No? Okay. So, okay. The reason why this doesn't destroy us is because Baba is float. So Baba is float, so we can actually move past the water here because we're floating above it. But the problem is that this rule is also in effect. Skull is defeat and float. So if we're floating and the other objects are floating, then we can interact with them. And skull is defeat, skull is floating, we're also floating, so if we move into the skull, then we're destroyed. The problem is this. If we break this rule, the float rule over here, then the water can destroy us because we are melt and we can't change that rule. So what do we need to do? We need to change our rules a little bit. So Baba is water is okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're also going to make the water float. So we have access to water and we have access to the and modifier over here. So the and modifier is a little bit like programming. We can also give something two different modifications at the same time. So water is hot and float, which means that the water is floating and we are not floating, so we can move underneath the water. we can also move underneath the skulls because the skulls are floating. So these two objects that are normally going to destroy us, they don't destroy us because they're floating, which means we can just move into the flag and win. Okay, so let's just do a little review of that level before we move on. So this is the Warm River level, and the key points in here, if there's an obstacle in your way, for example something that's defeat or hot, apply the float rule to pass through. So we floated the obstacle that was in our way, and then we were able to move past the obstacle. So the method of solve is form the rule, water is hot, and float. And that finishes the level. Okay, let's move on to the next one. It's going to be level 3, bridge building. Okay, let's go ahead and solve the level. Okay, so this is bridge building. Alright. We've got some rules in place. We need to take a look. So text is float. So the text is floating. I don't know exactly what that affects in this case, but we see water is sink. So if we move an object into the water, it will sink and be destroyed. And we've got hedges stop, which means we can't move past these hedges. Okay, so the problem is that the water's in the way. If we just move into it, then we're going to be destroyed. But we've got these rocks. So we can push the rocks into the water to get access to the flag. But the problem is that we don't have access to this rock. We only have one rock to sink into the water, and we need 2 to access the flag. Luckily, we can also form another rule. So the other rule is going to be rock is you. So now we control these 2 rocks. So we're just going to move this rock into here, and then we're going to move this rock into here, and then we can get access to the flag. Okay, that wasn't so hard. Okay, let's do a little review and then move on to the next level. So the key point in this level is always take the opportunity to become multiple objects at the same time. So if you can find a way to make you something else aside from what you are initially, usually it's Baba, that's always a good thing. So the method of solve for this level is form the rule rock is you, and then use the rocks to clear a path to the flag. Great, let's move on to level number 4, bridge building. So this is another level called bridge building, but it's got a question mark. Okay. Okay, so here's the thing. When we were talking about the previous level, I noted that there was a rule called text is float. And the rule text is float means that the text can't interact with other objects, which means if we move the text into, if text is float and we move it into an object that is sink, like this water here, it's actually not going to sink because it's floating above the water. So this level is different. So here it says water is sink, hedges stop, rock is float, Baba is you. So in this level we have to take a different approach because the rocks float now. So if we use the rocks and we just try to use them to destroy the water, that doesn't work because the rocks are floating above the water. So what we need to do is we need to set up another rule. So we're going to become the rock one more time. So we're going to set up rock as you. We're going to get these rocks here. And the interesting thing is that we can use the text to sink into the water. So we're going to use the flag text here, sink that into the water. Then we're going to use the is text here, And we're also going to sink that into the water. Okay, so now that that's done, we're gonna stop being the rocks because it's a bit, they're kind of getting in the way. Okay, so we have access to this flag here. So unfortunately, we can't. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't have used the flag text. I should have used this push text instead. Okay, here we're gonna go back. So, fortunately, we have a very generous undo button over here. Okay, so we're gonna keep the we're gonna use this is over here, and then we're going to stop being the rocks. Stop being the rocks. And then we're going to use this push text, and we're going to use that to get access to the flag. Okay, so we have access to the flag, and we've got access to this win text over here. So let's see. Let's do rock is you just for a little bit. We'll move it out of the water, and then we're going to make rock is win, and then we can move into the rocks. Actually, does that work? I don't think that's going to work. But we can form flag is win. What am I thinking? Let's just form flag is win and then touch the flag. Okay. So flag is win. Awesome. Okay, now let's touch the flag and let's win. Okay, that was a little confusing, but I'm just kind of winging it here. Let's take a look at the write-up and see what we need to do to win. Over here. Okay, so key points. Since rock is float in this level, the rocks can't be used to clear the water tiles. So to solve the level, use the rock text and the is text and the push text to clear the water tiles, giving access to the flag. So from there, we form flag is win, and then we can touch the flag and win. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to level number 5. This level is called Victory Spring. Okay, so this level is a little bit, there's not very much we can move around. So through process of elimination, we can probably figure this out. What rules are in place? So water is sink. So if we touch the water, then we sink, and that's it for us. We've got Baba is you, which means that we're playing as Baba over here. And we've got Cog is push. Cog is push. We also have text is float. So the text is floating around, and we need text to be float because currently the win text is over the water. And if we deactivate text is float, then the win text is going to be destroyed, which is not what we want. So since cog is push, we're just going to move these cogs into the water so that we can get access to the win text. Okay, so we can't move the win text out because then we would make contact with the water and lose. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to use this text here to move the win text into a position we can get to. So from here we can actually break this rule. So we can break the text is float rule, because what we need to do is we need to use this float text square to destroy the water here. So when we break the rule, then this water's cleared, and then move the win text out. Okay, so from here, how do we win? So we need to set up something as win. We can set up Baba is win, and that's always a good way to do it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we set up Baba is win, and then because we are us and we are win, we win. Okay, so let's review what we did in this level. So this level is also a bit complicated. Well, explaining what to do is a little bit complicated. So the key points in this level is text that is floating can't be used to clear sink tiles. So this is something we use to our advantage in this case. So the method to solve, number 1, push the cogs to the left-hand side of the wind text, creating the C pattern in the water with the wind text in the left-hand side of the C. Okay. Number 2, move the rule text is float to the right until the float text is over the water tile. Then we break the text is float rule by moving the is text, which clears a path for us to get access to the win tile, and that's going to let us form the rule Baba is win to finish the level. Okay, so let's see if I don't think I did this. I didn't do a write-up for this level yet, but let me take a quick look at it to see if I remember how to solve it. I've solved this entire area before, but sometimes I forget the way I solved it. So let's take a look at assembly team. So this is level 6 assembly team. This is probably going to be the final level we're doing here. Okay, we got some robots now. Oh, we're introduced to a couple new things. So we got the robots. These are new objects, and we've got also these pipes. The pipes are also new objects. Okay, so let's see. The rules are robot is you. Oh, we're the robot. We're not Baba. Robot is stop. So we can't move through. The robots can't move through each other. Okay. Flag is win. So we have to get access to the flag here. We also have water is stop. Well, sorry. Water is sink, and pipe is stop. So let's see what we need to do. It looks like we might need to sacrifice one of the robots. I think what we need to do is we need to form the rule Baba is you, and then as Baba, we would move up into the flag and win. The problem is that if we move these robots, they both move into the water at the same time, which means they would be both destroyed at the same time. What we need to do is we need to line the robots up. And how are we going to do that? I think we can do it by... We can't move the Baba text against the wall. Yeah. Okay, there's got to be a way we can somehow shift these two robots so that they're not on the same line. If we move, the problem is that if we move the Baba text against the wall, then we can't use it anymore. We can't move it out. So here, we can get access. Oh, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we can't move this Baba text anymore because we can just move the rules out instead. Okay, so that's, man. Okay, so now we swarm Baba as you. And now we're Baba, and we can touch the flag and win. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do the little write-up for this level, and then we can finish up with this section of the stream. Okay, so this is, what was it called? This one is assembly team number 6. Let's go ahead and write this up. So the key points for this level. So the key point for this level was we are introduced to two new objects. We're introduced to two new objects in this level, the robot, and pipe. And what do we need to take away from this level? I guess nothing in particular, but what we need to do is use the Baba text to act as a buffer so we can break the line of movement for the two robots that we control. Okay? And then move one of the robots into the water so we have access to the is and you text. And then the last thing is form the rule Baba is you. Okay, so let's make this a nice numbered list. And let's commit the changes, and we're finished. So this next level is called Catch the Thief. And let's go ahead and enter the level. Okay, so we've got a bunch of rules that we need to keep in mind here. So we've got, what rules do we have in play here? We've got skull is defeat. So skull is defeat means we can't touch the skulls, because if we touch the skulls, then we lose. And that is not what we want. So we also have pipe is stop. That means that we can't move beyond these pipes over here, and the pipes basically impede our process. Okay, so we've got two other rules in here. There's Baba is you, which means that we are Baba, this little white rabbit thing. And we got robot is move. So move is kind of a new rule. It means that whatever is move is going to move in a direction depending on what direction it's facing. So after whatever is moving around hits an obstacle, it's going to turn around and move in the opposite direction. But we got to be quick because the robot is moving around and the robot is going to break this rule, Baba is you, which means that we can't play anymore. Okay, so we're going to go back, and what we need to do is we need to move this rule out of the way before the robot breaks the rule. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move above the Baba is you rule, and we're going to move down to get the rule out of the way so that the robot doesn't break the rule. Okay, from here we can actually start solving the level. What we need to do is we need to move this win tile out of this area here, because, well, we don't have access to this area because there are all these skulls here, and the skulls are defeat, so we can't move through them, otherwise we'll be destroyed. So what we need to do is we need to wait until the robot moves around into this area. And when it does, then what we're going to do is we're going to break this robot is move rule. And after we do that, we can also take control of the robot. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do robot is you. So robot is you. We're going to create that rule, which means we're controlling both the robot and we're controlling Baba. So we can move both of these characters around at the same time. What we want to do is we want to use the robot to move this win tile out so we can actually finish the level. So we're going to move the win tile out, and then we're going to use Baba to move the win tile out. After that, all we need to do is we need to set up a win condition. So the win condition is going to be, let's make Baba is win. So we're no longer controlling Baba. So we're going to set up Baba is win, and then that means that when we touch Baba, we will win the level. So let's go ahead and touch Baba, and then we win. Okay, so before we finish up with this level, let's talk a little bit about what we did in the level, and then we will move on. Okay, so over here, okay, what are our key points? So the key point in this level is move the rule Baba is you down before the robot breaks the rule. So that's the first thing we need to do in the level. And in order to solve the level, first we move Baba is you down to save it from being broken by the robot, and then we wait until the robot is to the left of the skulls, and then we break the rule robot is move. After that, we're gonna form the rule robot is Baba. I guess robot is Baba is another way we can finish the level by taking control of the robot and turning it into Baba. Then we move the text, the win text out, and then we form the rule Baba is win, and then touch Baba to finish the level. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on. Okay, the next level is level 8, Tiny Pond. Okay, let's go ahead and start this level. Okay, so Tiny Pond. Let's go ahead and start this level, and hopefully I can remember what's going on here. What's going on in this level? So we've got a few different rules that we need to pay attention to, and the first rule we've got is water is stop and shut. So you can't move past the water because it's got the stop rule. And it's got the shut rule applied as well, which means we can open it. We can destroy it by using an object that has the open rule applied to it. Okay, let's go ahead and the other rules that are in play is Baba is you and open, but we can change this. So Baba is you, which means we control Baba, of course, and open means that if Baba runs into the water, then Baba and the water will be destroyed. We don't want this. We want to make another object open. And we've got a couple of objects right here. We've got a flag and we've got a key. So what we need to do to finish the level is we need to create 2 of one of these objects, either the flag or the key. I'm going to create 2 of the keys, and we're going to do that by forming this rule. So the rule is going to be flag is key. Let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so flag is key, which means now that we have got 2 of these keys. The next thing we want to do is we want to become the key, so we can use the key to open up one of these water tiles. So we become key is you and open, which means we now control the keys. So we're just going to open up this one tile over here with our key, and then we're going to move out the win tile. So we can move the win tile over here, and then we can move it out, and then we can make anything the win condition from here. In this case, let's go ahead and make Baba into the win condition. So we're going to do Baba is win. So let's set that up. After that, we can touch Baba to finish the level. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so before we finish out the level, let's talk a little bit about how we solved the level over at GitHub. So the key point in this level, well, there's no real key point, but what do we do to solve the level? So form the rules flag is key to get 2 keys. Then we form the rule key is you and open, so that we can move 2 keys around. Use one of the keys to open the water tile located to the lower right of the win text, and then use the remaining key to move the win text out. After that, we form the rule key is you and win, or we could form the rule Baba is win and then touch Baba, but we finish the level in anyways. Okay, the next level is Research Facility. Let's take a look at this level. So it says here, we need to set up a moving object to break inconvenient rules. Well, let's talk a little bit more about this. Okay, this is level 9, Research Facility. Okay, we've got a bunch of different stuff going on here. And before we start the level, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on. First, we'll talk about the rules that we can't change. So Kiki is defeat, which means that we can't move past this guy right here, Kiki, because he will cause us to lose. And some other rules that we can't change are wall is stop. So these walls, these are preventing us from moving around. That's fine. And we've got this other rule we can't change, which is bolt is melt. So bolt is melt means that if this lightning bolt here comes into contact with an object that's hot, it will be destroyed. So in this case, the only objects that are hot in this level are these skulls. So we need to make sure that the lightning bolt doesn't come into contact with the skulls, otherwise it'll be destroyed. And what we need to do is we need to use this lightning bolt to move in this line over here to break this rule called skull is hot. Wait, are we breaking the rule skull is hot? No. We're going to be breaking the rule skull is defeat, because what we need to do is we need to move this defeat tile into here. We need to move the defeat tile into here to form the rule skull is defeat, and then afterwards we're going to be breaking that rule by using the bolt to push past. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set up the lightning bolt over here. So the lightning bolt is push. We're going to push it into a position over here, and what we want to do is we want to give us some time. So it's going to move over here, then it's going to move over this way. What we want to do is we want to eventually have the lightning bolt break this rule over here, and then we'll be able to move out and move the wind tile out and then finish the level. Okay, so the problem is that after we move over here, we form this rule, skull is defeat, and we need to break the rule by using the lightning bolt. And let me demonstrate how we do that. We do that by setting up bolt is move, and I'm just going to set it up over here. So bolt is move, and then we're going to race the lightning bolt over here. We set up this rule skull is defeat, which means that skull is no longer hot, which means that the lightning bolt can break the rule skull is defeat. And then we're going to move down. We're going to move the wind tile out, and then we're going to set up the rule bolt is win. But before we do that, we're going to make sure that the bolt is in a position where we can actually access it. So from here, we can touch the bolt and finish the level. Okay, let's go ahead and finish out the level, but before we do that, let's talk about these key points. So we need to set up a moving object to break inconvenient rules. So this is something we do a lot inside this particular area, and the method of solve is this. So we push the bolt to the right of Kiki facing the right, then we break the rule skull is hot. When it eventually runs into yeah, we break the rule skull is hot by pushing the defeat tile. Then we wait until the moving bolt breaks the rule skull is defeat. Then we form the rule bolt is win when the bolt is on the right of Kiki. Touch the bolt and win. I guess we missed a step where we had to set up bolt is move, but that's well, hopefully you caught on to that. Anyways, let's move on to the next level. Okay, the next level is wireless connection. Okay, level 10. Okay, so this is this level actually illustrates a very interesting thing where we can get moving objects to set up rules for us. Before we talk about this, let's just talk about the rules that are established in the level. So in this level, pipe is stop, Baba is you, flag is flag. So flag cannot be transformed, no matter what rule we set up. And we also have this other rule that is very important, which is bog is defeat. So we don't have access ourselves to this portion of the map, the right-hand portion of the map, because if we run into the bog, then we are defeated. So what we need to do is we need to set up the rule over here, flag is win. So flag is rock and win, but basically the rock over here is just a gap filler. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the rule like this, where we can eventually get the robots. Well, we're going to get some robots to push these rules over here so that it forms flag and rock is win. But the first thing we need to do is we need to get 2 robots, or 2 cogs, but I prefer robots. So we're going to set up the rule cog is robot to create another robot. So we got 2 robots now, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a rule called robot is push, so that we can push the robots into position. So robot is push. So this means we can push the robots around. We're going to push them in front of the text tiles here, because we want them to push them to form the rule on the other side of the bog. So the robots won't be destroyed if they touch the bog. We will, but the robots won't, because moving objects are not you, and only you can be defeated. So let's go ahead and get those robots moving by setting up robot is move. Okay, so the robots are moving, and when the rule is established flag and rock is win, because we're standing on the flag, we're gonna win. So we're gonna wait, and then we win. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we did to finish this level. So the key point in this level is we can use moving objects to push rules into place in areas in the map where we don't have access. So the method of solve in this case is form the rule cog is robot to create an extra robot. Okay? Push the and is text into position directly to the left of the block so that it'll form the rule flag and rock is win if pushed enough tiles to the right. Move the robots directly in front, directly to the left of these text objects, then form the rule robot is move. Then we move over top of the flag while the robots are moving around, and eventually the robots are going to move these text objects into position to form the rule flag and rock is win, and then because we're moving on top, we're on top of the flag, we win. Okay, so let's move on to the next level. So that's going to be level number 11. Oh, the prison level. This is a great level because it teaches you a very important rule. Let's talk a little bit more about this. So, what is the key technique? So there's a technique used in this level that can be used to break up rules that normally cannot be broken due to being pushed up against the wall. So let's talk about this. So level 11, the prison level. So here I will admit that I had to look up the solution to this level because you wouldn't, if you were just following the rules, you wouldn't ever consider the solution. And let's talk a little bit about the solution in this case. So we got the rule wall is stop over here, and because wall is stop, we can't get to the win tile. So we need to find a way to break up the wall is stop rule. The thing is that because wall is stop is pushed up against the wall, we can't really interact with it. very well. And the way we're going to actually solve the level is this. So we're going to set up the rule Kiki is push. So Baba is you, but now Kiki is push, and we can move Kiki around by pushing him around. So we're going to push Kiki over here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to break up the rule Kiki is push. So Kiki is push, which means we can now move on top of Kiki. So the other thing that can happen is that text can also move on top of Kiki. And because Kiki is not a push object or a stop object or you, that means these objects can overlap. So wall is on top, the wall text is on top of Kiki. If we set it up so that now Kiki is you, now we control Kiki. We don't control Baba, we control Kiki, and we can actually break the wall is stop rule by moving down. So we were previously overlapped over here, but the moment we become one of the objects that is in the stack, we can actually move out, and then we can break up this rule. So this is a very important rule, and you would probably wouldn't figure it out on your own. So this is where we have to know the tricks. This is one of the tricks of the game. So from here, we're no longer impeded by the stop rule, and we can go ahead and set up a win rule. Let's make it so that wall is win, just to stick it to those walls. Okay, so wall is win, so we can just touch a wall and win. Okay, so the key point here is that there's a technique used in the level that can be used to break up rules that normally cannot be broken due to being pushed up against the wall. So form the rule Baba is you and Kiki is push, sharing the same is tile. Push Kiki into the tile directly above the wall text. Then break the rule Kiki is push, which means that we can actually move into the Kiki object. Move the wall is stop rule up a tile so that the wall text overlaps with Kiki. Form the rule Kiki is you. So after we become Kiki in the stack, we can move down, breaking the rule wall is stop. Form the rule Kiki is win, or wall is win, whatever you want, to finish the level. Okay, let's move on to the next level. Okay, so let's see. So in this level, the key point is that we can set up the float rules, that they can be broken after we move beyond the ground obstacles. So what does this mean? Let's take a look at this level here. So this level's called Boiling River, and I really hope by playing this game I get everybody interested in it, because it's very easily one of my favorite puzzle games ever. I'm not a person who really likes puzzle games. It's kind of funny that I say that because because I do hacking and like cybersecurity challenges, which are kind of like little puzzles. But let's take a little look at this game. So it's a very small level, and we got a bunch of different rules that we have set up here. So the rules here are skull is defeat and float, which means that if we run into the skulls, we are defeated, and they float, which means that if we're floating, then we can crash into them. So if we run into the floating skulls, then we're defeated. The thing is that the only way we can interact with these is if we're also floating. So we're currently floating because this rule is in place. Baba is you and float, which means that we can crash into the skulls because we're also floating. So the skulls are floating, we're floating. If we're not floating, then we have to deal with the river, because we also have this rule right here. So water is water and hot. So the water can't be transformed, and it's also hot. And we can't change this rule either. Baba is melt. So if melt objects come into contact with hot objects, then the melt object is going to be destroyed. Okay, so if we move into the water, we melt. Because we're melt, we can't change this rule. The water is hot, we can't change this rule either. So if we run into the water, then we're eliminated. So if we float, we can't get access to the flag because the skulls are in the way. But if we don't float, then the water gets in our way. So how can we get around this? This is what we're going to do. Baba is melt. Baba is melt and you. So when we form this rule, then we can move these three text objects out. So we can form Baba is float, like this. Oops. Like this. So now we float, so we can get around the river. But we can also move the rule across the river. And then we can break the rule after we cross the river, like this. So we're now no longer float. We're already past the river, and we can go below the skulls. And since we can go below the skulls, we can get access to the flag, and then we win. So I swear I've done these levels before, but this is what we write our notes for. Because when we write our notes, then we can reproduce the method of solve, right? So in this level, we have to set up the float rules so that they can be broken after we move beyond the ground obstacles, or vice versa. So first we form the rule Baba is melt and you, and then we take these three textiles and we set this up horizontally so that we can push it across the river. And then we get across the river by using the float. After we're past the river, then we break the rule Baba's float, which means that we can't interact with the skulls, which would normally defeat us. And then we touch the flag to win. Okay, let's move on to the next level. So this is gonna be bridges. Okay, so what's the key point in this level? It says becoming both float and non-float objects at the same time is always a good thing. Let's go ahead and try to finish this next level. This is bridges. Okay, so what's going on here? So we got some rules. We got hedges stop, which means we can't move beyond the hedges. Water is sink, which means that if we enter the water and we're not a float object, then we'll be destroyed. We've got text is float, which means the text is all floating, which means it doesn't interact with stuff like the water. And we got rock is float, which means the rocks don't interact with the water either. What we want to do is we want to move this rule out over here. Actually, we want to either get access to the flag, which is not floating, or we want to move this text out and form some other rule that's win. So how do we do this? So in the previous level that was kind of like this, we became the rock, and then we could move the rocks around. So one thing we can do is we can move the text. Oh, actually, the text is float, so the text isn't going to be able to sink the water over here. Huh. But what we can do is we can use the rocks to move some text out. And whoops. And the text we're going to move out is the is win text. So okay, so we've pushed the is win text out, and what we're going to do is we're going to form a rule to win. And let's go ahead and form rock is win, because we are the rock. So rock is win, and rock is you. That means we win. Wait, no, hold on. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, there we go. Before we finish out this challenge, let's go ahead and take a look at the walkthrough. So the key points. Becoming both the float and non-float objects at the same time is always a good thing. So the first thing we do is we form the role rock is you, so we become both Baba and the rocks. Move the rocks so that one is directly on top of the other. Use the rocks to move the is win text to the left across the water, and then form the rule rock is win. Okay, let's go ahead and do the next level. Next level is Tiny Isle. Okay, so the key point in this level is going to be use the and text to extend rules. So let's go ahead and take a look at the level. So this is level 3. Okay, so this is very similar to another level that looks very much like this, only there's less to work with. So we've got some rules to work with here. So we've got some rules we can't modify. So this is water is stop and shut. So the water tiles impede our progress unless we're also the open object, in which case we can destroy the water tile and ourselves at the same time, like this. But we don't want to do this. What we want to do is we want to get access to the wind tile over here. And the first thing we need to do is we need to create a couple of objects to become. And we're going to become the key object. So we're going to move this rule into place. So flag is key, which means we're going to get 2 keys. So now that we have 2 keys, we can become the key by sliding this into place. So Baba is you becomes key is you, which means we can move the keys around. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up this water tile using the key, because key is you and open, but we've also got another key. What we're going to do now is we're going to form a win rule. And the win rule we're going to set up is this. So the rule is going to be Baba is open and win. So we were able to extend the number of tiles to get access to the win tile over here. And in this case we used and open to extend is over here, another couple of tiles. So we've set up this rule, Baba is open and win, which means that we are the key. If we move into Baba, then we win. Okay, let's talk about how we solved the level. So the key point in this level was to use the and text to extend the rules. So we did form the rule flag is key to get an extra key object. Then we formed the rule key is you and open. So we became the key. There were 2 keys. We used one of the keys to open the water tile to the left of the win text. And then we used the and open to get access to the win tile. And then we added is Baba. So Baba is open and win. When we're acting as the key object, we can touch Baba to win. All right, let's move on to the next level. So only a couple more to do. This one's going to be dim signal. Okay, so the key point in this level is even if parts of rules are negated, any valid portions still apply. So even if some of the rules can't work, or they don't work, or they're negated, the rest of the rules are still going to apply as long as they're set up properly. So let's talk a little bit about this. So this is the dim signal level. Okay, so this looks very similar to another level that we did, where we had to use some robots to move some rules into place. And the thing is that we've got an extra space over here. Before we talk more about this, let's talk about the rules that are in place. So Baba is you, and we can't modify this, so we're always going to act as Baba. Flag is flag, which means the flag cannot be transformed. So even if we want to transform into something else, we can't. We've got pipe is stop, which means that we can't move past the pipes, they will always impede movement. And we've got bog is defeat. So us as the player, we can't cross the river over here, because if we try to, we get defeated. So what we need to do is we need to use the move objects to push some rules into place. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to create a couple of the same object. So I like robots, so I'm going to create an extra robot from this cog. So we're going to move this rule, cog is robot, and we're going to get an extra robot. And from here, we're going to move these robots into place. So we're going to do robot is push. And then we can move the robots around. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a rule over here. So because we can only set up 2 rules at a time, we can set up 2 rules simultaneously. But before we set up 2 rules, we have to set up 3 different tiles over here. We're going to form the rule flag is rock and ice and wind. It's a bit convoluted, but we'll discover what exactly is going on in just a bit. So we don't need this text over here, and what we need to do is we need to set up a little buffer. Actually, we do. Actually, we need this. The is. Hold on. Okay, so we don't need cog. We don't need the cog. We're just going to move this rule over here. So the thing is that the robot is going to push all of these tiles over to the right, and we want to make sure that there are enough buffers over here so that is going to fall into place in this spot. So we need cog and we need to stop to occupy these tiles over here, and let's demonstrate how that's done. So we're going to set it up so the robots move now. So we're going to set up robot is move, and then we're going to wait. The robot is going to move the tiles into place, and we see here flag is rock, but the rule is negated because flag is flag, which means that flag cannot become something else. This is fine because we're going to see that even though this part of the rule is negated, if the other parts of the rule are legitimate, then those will apply. So what do we do from now on? We wait for the robots to come across the river again, and then we break the rule. And that means that we can push them into position again. So what we want to do is we want to push them into a position where they're going to form the rules with this and text at the same time, and we also want to make sure that we have enough time to move over top of the flag so that when the rule is established, then we're in a good position to win. So we're going to form the rule robot is move, which means the robots are going to start moving, and we make it to the flag in time so that when the robots form this rule, flag is rock and ice and win, then we'll win because we're already on top of the flag. So we win. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how we solved that level before we move on. So in this, this is a bit convoluted. We saw what we did previously, but even if parts of the rule are negated, any valid portions still apply. So set up the rule cog is robot to create 2 robots. We set up the horizontal sequence is cog stop in a row between the flag and the rock textiles on the right hand side of the map, and then we set up the rule robot is push. We push the robot into position to the left of the is cog stop tiles. We form the rule robot is move so the robot moves around, and we break the rule robot is move when the robot crosses the water and back onto the left hand side of the map. At that point, we've already set up the rule flag is rock, and then we break the rule robot is move. Then we push the 2 and tiles into positions beside the water in rows between the rows between rock and ice and rock and wind. These tiles, textiles on the right hand side of the map. And then we set up robot is push so we can push the robots beside these and tiles. and then we form the rule robot is move, and we move into a position very close to the flag so that when we move on top of the flag, the robots haven't set up the rule flag is rock and ice and win. And when they do, because we're standing on top of the flag, then we win. Okay, so we've only got a couple levels left. Let's go ahead and access the next one. Okay, this is the dungeon level. So this is another level where you wouldn't figure out how to solve the level unless you knew about these weird little rules. And the weird little rule in this case is, let's see, let me think about this. What is the weird little rule in this case? So Baba is you, Kiki, we also need to be Kiki, right. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. So there's Baba and Kiki here. We can take control of both of these at the same time. So we're gonna set up Kiki is you over here. So now we're moving both Baba and Kiki. What we need to do is we need to get into position above wall is stop. What we need to do in this level is we need to break up the rule wall is stop. And the way we do it is not intuitive at all. So we've got Baba and Kiki sandwiching the rule here. If we move up, then the wall tile overlaps with Baba. But this shouldn't normally be allowed, because Baba is usually an object that prevents the wall text from overlapping. I don't know why this is, but this works. It's weird, but it's one of these weird little rules and these weird little interactions that you have to learn to solve some of these advanced levels. So now that they're overlapping, if we move down, then the wall is stop rule is broken up, and we can win the level. The question is why? Why does this rule exist? Because by all logic it shouldn't. But anyways, I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, so we're just gonna set up wall is win, and then we're gonna win. This rule is really weird, but this is what we have to do as hackers. We have to understand all the quirky little interactions between the rules and systems, because we have to take advantage of them. Okay, so before we finish this off, let's talk a little bit about how we solved the level. So this was the dungeon level. Okay, so the key point. This is a weird interaction. This is where text can overlap with a playable object if the playable object is unable to move due to a stop object or the edge of the map. And if we try to move this text object into the playable object, it's going to overlap. We should also note that text cannot overlap with other text tiles. So this is another rule in Baba is you. Text will never overlap with other text, because if it could, it would break the game. So how do we solve the level? So we form the rule Baba is you and Kiki is you simultaneously. Then we position Baba and Kiki to the top and bottom of the wall is stop rule. We move Kiki up, causing the wall text to overlap with Baba. We move down, breaking the wall is stop rule. Then we form the rule wall is win, and then we move into the wall to win. It still makes my brain hurt a little bit that this rule actually works, but it does work. So we need to keep this in mind, because we might be using this kind of rule to solve other levels in the future. Okay, let's do the last level in this area. So this is going to be the Evaporating River level. Okay, so the key point in this level is we can overlap objects, then apply the sync rule to one of them to remove both objects. Forming the object as sync rule with text overlapping the object can let you destroy the object with one of the text tiles. So this might not make sense right now, but when we enter the level, it'll make a lot more sense. Okay, so this is the Evaporating River level. Okay, so we've got a bunch of rules. We should probably review the rules before we move on. So wall is stop. This means that we can't move beyond this wall over here. This is, well, okay, we got two walls. We've got water is hot, which means if we run into the water and we're a melt object, then we will melt. And I think we are not melt, but this cog is push and melt. So the cog can't be pushed across the water, otherwise it'll melt. We've got water is sink, which means if we went into the water, we will sink, which is something we don't want. We've got Baba as you, and I don't think we can change this because it's squished up against the wall. What we want to do is we want to set up the rule flag is win by pushing this text tile over to the left and forming the rule flag is win. But we need to set that up, and this is how we're going to do it. The other big rule here is that skull is defeat. So we can't actually move into the skulls, otherwise we are going to be destroyed. So how do we solve the level? First of all, we're going to break the rule water is sink. So we can actually move past the water now, because it's no longer sink. What we want to do is we want to move the cog. We want to move the cog beyond the river over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this up. Whoops. We're going to set up the rule water is sink, but we're going to put the water text tile on top of the water tile, object tile, which means that both of these things are going to be destroyed. So when we establish the rule, then the water is destroyed, but water is also not sink anymore. It doesn't really matter that much, but this allows us to move the cog out. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this cog into this position over here, because what we want to do is we want to destroy the cog and the skull at the same time, which lets us push the flag tile into position. So how do we do this? We're going to set up the rule cog is sink. So when we set this rule up, then both the cog and the skull is going to be destroyed. And from here, we can establish the rule flag is win and then touch the flag to win. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we did in this level to solve it. Okay, so the key point in this level is when we can overlap objects, then apply the sync rule to one of them to remove both objects. And forming the object is sync rule with text overlapping the object can let you destroy the object with one of the text tiles. So to solve the level, first we need to break the rule water is sink. Then form the rule water is sink horizontally such that the water text is overlapping a water tile when formed, destroying the water object and the water text. Move the cog into position directly to the right of the flag text, overlapping the skull. Form the rule cog is sink, destroying both the cog and the skull. Form the rule flag is win, and then touch the flag to win.
Hey there, HackerFrogs! Are you enjoying this workshop? Learning new concepts and skills? If so, there's a way you can support the channel, and it's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button below the video. Also, click on the like button. And if you have questions or comments on this workshop, please leave them below the video. Thanks for listening. And now, back to our scheduled programming.